The first sign that humanity had returned to the war was not an explosion, it was silence. Across the outer edge of the Orion sector, 12,000 alien ships suddenly lost contact with their command networks. Navigation screens went black. Sensor arrays stopped responding. Even the ancient warning beacons of the Galactic Council went dark one by one. Then something appeared between the stars. It was not a fleet. It was one ship. For almost 300 years, the major galactic empires had believed humanity was finished. Earth had been classified as a failed death world, a planet too violent to produce a stable spacefaring civilization. Its oceans were filled with predators. Its continents suffered storms, earthquakes, wildfires, and deadly temperature changes. Even the air itself carried microscopic threats that could weaken unprotected alien bodies within minutes. The Galactic Council had studied Earth and reached a simple conclusion. Humans were dangerous but primitive. That conclusion had been their greatest mistake. The unknown warship hung motionless above the dead moon of Vera, hidden against the darkness of space. Its surface was black, scarred, and covered with strange glowing lines that looked less like decoration and more like old wounds sealed by technology. Massive engines rested along its rear section, silent for now. Around its hull were weapons unlike anything recorded in the Council archives. No identification signal came from the vessel. No diplomatic message, no demand. The alien fleet commander watching from a heavily armored command ship felt something he had never experienced during a military operation. Fear. "Run the scan again," he ordered. The sensor officer swallowed before answering. "We already did?" "Nothing makes sense." The commander stared at the tactical display. The ship had appeared inside a region protected by 3 empires. Their combined defensive grid was considered impossible to penetrate. Nothing could cross that zone without being detected. Yet the human warship had crossed it without triggering a single alarm. The commander leaned toward the screen. "How many ships?" The sensor officer hesitated. "1." A nervous laugh came from somewhere behind the command deck. One ship against thousands. It should have been amusing. Instead, nobody laughed again. Far away, inside the silent vessel, the human crew was already awake. There were no cheering soldiers, no speeches, no celebration. Only people doing their jobs. The bridge was dark except for the pale light of tactical displays. Every crew member wore the same expression of controlled focus. They had trained for this moment since childhood because humanity had learned long ago that survival did not belong to the strongest species. It belonged to the species that adapted. The captain stood before the main viewport, watching the alien fleet gather in the distance. "They think we are alone," one officer said. The captain gave a quiet nod. "Let them." Another officer checked the ship's systems. "All weapons ready? Shields? Full strength? Engines?" "Waiting." The captain looked at the enemy formation. Thousands of alien warships were moving into position. Their commanders believed they were surrounding an isolated human vessel. They did not know that the ship had not come to fight alone. It had come to reveal itself. For generations, humanity had hidden beyond mapped space. While the Galactic Council expanded its borders, human colonies disappeared from official records. While alien empires built armies, humans built something else. They built a weapon capable of surviving anything the galaxy could throw at it. The warship had been constructed in orbit around a dying star. Its armor had been tested against radiation storms. Its engines had been pushed through gravitational distortions that destroyed ordinary ships. Its crew had trained on worlds where a single mistake meant death. Every part of the vessel carried a lesson learned from Earth's brutal history. Humanity had not escaped its death world nature. It had taken that nature with it into space. Suddenly, the alien fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy weapons illuminated the darkness. The human crew did not move. The captain simply raised one hand. "Uncloak." The darkness around the warship shattered. Hidden structures appeared across its hull. Massive weapons unfolded from beneath its armor. Rings of energy formed around the engines as the vessel awakened with a deep vibration that passed through the entire battlefield. Every alien sensor screamed at once. The commander stared at the impossible readings. "That is not one ship. The sensor officer's face went pale. Sir, there are no other ships. Then what am I looking at? The officer looked toward the tactical display. A warship built like a fleet. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council understood why humans had vanished. They had not been defeated. They had been preparing. And now the hidden warship had finally decided that the galaxy was ready to see what humanity had become. The alien fleet stopped firing. For several seconds, every ship remained locked in position, surrounded by the fading energy of its own weapons. The battlefield should have been filled with thousands of signals, but the human warship had somehow absorbed the attack without even changing course. On the alien command deck, nobody spoke. The commander stared at the tactical display. The human vessel was still there, completely intact. Its black armor showed no visible damage. The strange red lines running across its hull had grown brighter, as if the weapon's fire had only awakened something inside it. "Identify the vessel," he said. The sensor officer shook his head. "We cannot. Every ship has an identification code. This one does not." The commander turned toward him. "Then tell me what it is." The officer looked at the data again. "Human." The word seemed to make the entire command deck colder. For centuries, that word had been used in military academies as a warning about an ancient species from a violent planet. Most modern aliens had never seen a human outside historical recordings. The few surviving images showed creatures that looked physically unimpressive compared with the larger and stronger species of the galaxy. That was exactly why the Council had underestimated them. Earth had taught humans a different kind of strength. On Earth, survival had never been guaranteed. A human could be born into a world of freezing winters, burning deserts, crushing ocean depths, poisonous plants, dangerous animals, violent storms, and diseases invisible to the eye. A human did not need claws, armored skin, or multiple limbs to survive such a planet. Humans built tools. They learned. They failed. They adapted. Then they tried again. The Galactic Council had mistaken that behavior for weakness. The human captain remembered those lessons as she watched the alien fleet surround them. "How long until they attack again?" she asked. 3 minutes, perhaps less." "Good." One of the officers looked at her. "Good?" She nodded. "We need them closer." The officer understood immediately. The warship was not trying to escape. It was allowing the enemy to approach. That realization spread through the human bridge without anyone needing to explain it. Every crew member had studied the tactical projections. The alien fleet was enormous, but numbers meant little if the enemy did not understand what it was facing. The ship's weapons were not designed for conventional warfare. They were designed for survival. The vessel had been constructed in a region of space where radiation storms could strip a ship's outer armor in minutes. Its reactor had been built using technology developed from old human experiments that had nearly destroyed entire research stations. Its hull had been tested against gravitational pressure that would crush ordinary vessels. But the strangest part was not the ship itself. It was the crew. Every human aboard had been selected for one reason. They could survive environments that had killed trained soldiers from other worlds. The Galactic Council had never understood that humanity's military doctrine was built around the same principle as life on Earth: expect the unexpected. The alien fleet began moving again. Thousands of ships formed 3 enormous attack lines. Their commanders had decided that the human vessel must have some kind of defensive technology, but every defense had a limit. They intended to discover that limit. The first wave accelerated. The human warship remained motionless. Inside the bridge, a young officer watched the enemy formation approach. "They are entering the outer field?" The captain nodded. "Wait. Yes, Captain." The alien commander gave the order. The second barrage began. Energy weapons crossed the darkness from every direction. The stars disappeared behind waves of artificial light. Massive projectiles raced toward the human vessel while automated fighters swept around its flanks. Then the warship moved, not backward, not forward, down. The entire vessel dropped toward the surface of Vera's dead moon at a speed that made the alien sensors struggle to follow it. The alien commander stared in disbelief. "Why is it going toward the moon?" No one answered. The human ship plunged through the moon's thin atmosphere and disappeared behind a mountain range. The alien fleet followed. But the moon was not as dead as the Council believed. Beneath its surface were enormous structures, ancient tunnels, buried machinery, and something that had been waiting there for a very long time. The human captain watched the underground scans appear across her display. Confirm the coordinates. The navigation officer checked them twice. Confirmed. Then we were right. A silence filled the bridge. The captain looked at the sealed region beneath the moon. Humanity had not chosen Vera by accident. The hidden warship had come here because Earth had discovered something decades earlier. Something the Galactic Council had never known existed. Something powerful enough to explain why the human government had ordered entire colonies to disappear from the galactic maps. The alien fleet was still following them. The commander believed the human ship was trapped. He had no idea that he was following it directly into the oldest secret humanity had ever found. Deep beneath Vera, something suddenly awakened. A pulse traveled through the moon, then another. The human warship stopped above the buried structure. Every light on its bridge turned red. The captain slowly looked toward the main display. The alien fleet was closing in. But beneath them, something had just opened its eyes. The pulse beneath Vera became stronger. It moved through the moon like a heartbeat, shaking loose clouds of dust from the mountains and sending waves across the frozen plains. The human warship remained suspended above the surface while its sensors reached deeper into the crust. On the alien command ships, alarms began screaming. The fleet commander stared at his display. What just happened? We do not know. Find out. The sensor officer tried to isolate the source, but every scan returned the same result. The signal was coming from beneath the moon, yet its energy signature did not match any known reactor, weapon, or communication system. Then the moon shifted, only slightly. But every ship detected it. The alien commander felt his confidence disappear. Pull the fleet back. His officers looked at him in surprise. Sir, move away from the moon. Before the order could be carried out, the human warship transmitted a message. It was short. Do not follow us. The commander stared at the words. For the first time, he heard a human voice. The captain's tone was calm. There was no anger in it, no threat, that somehow made the warning worse. The commander opened a direct channel. You are surrounded by the combined forces of 3 galactic empires. You have no escape. The human captain looked at him through the communication screen. That is what you believe. We have thousands of ships. I know. You cannot defeat us. We are not trying to defeat you. The commander frowned. Then what are you doing? The captain glanced toward the moon beneath her. Surviving. The transmission ended. The alien commander did not understand the answer. That was the problem with humans. They rarely fought according to the rules other species expected. The fleet had been built around overwhelming force. Alien military doctrine assumed that an enemy would attempt to destroy the strongest threat first, seize strategic positions, and eliminate escape routes. Humans had developed on Earth. Their ancestors had survived by avoiding predators, using terrain, conserving energy, building shelter, and turning ordinary objects into tools. On a death world, survival did not always mean winning a fight. Sometimes it meant making sure the fight happened somewhere you had already prepared. The human captain looked at the underground map. How much time? 4 minutes until the structure fully opens. And the fleet? Closing in? Then we have 3 minutes. One of the engineers looked uneasy. Captain, if the old system is still active, we cannot predict what it will do. We never could. You understand what happened last time. The bridge became silent. Nobody needed the details. Years earlier, human explorers had discovered the buried complex beneath Vera. They had expected ruins. Instead, they found a machine that seemed to respond to biological signals. The first expedition had barely escaped. 3 decades later, humanity had returned with better equipment and a much clearer understanding of the system, but they had never activated it. Until now. Outside, the alien fleet began descending through Vera's thin atmosphere. The moon was a hostile place even without an enemy. Its atmosphere was too thin for most alien species to survive without sealed armor. Electrical storms crawled across the surface. Frozen gases erupted from cracks in the ground. Sharp mineral formations rose from the plains like enormous blades. The alien soldiers were not prepared for it. Their equipment had been designed for conventional planets. Within minutes, their sensors began malfunctioning. The human crew watched the readings. They are losing atmospheric control. How many? Thousands. The captain did not smile. She had seen too many humans die because someone celebrated too early. Keep watching. An alien landing group reached the surface. The soldiers stepped onto Vera expecting an easy pursuit. The first problem was gravity. The second was the cold. The third was the electromagnetic interference. Their formation collapsed within minutes. Meanwhile, the humans moved through the same environment with practiced efficiency. Their suits adjusted automatically. Their boots locked into the frozen terrain. Their navigation systems switched between visual mapping and magnetic guidance when the atmosphere disrupted electronic signals. The aliens were equipped for war. The humans were equipped for survival. That difference became obvious when a violent storm swept across the valley. The alien troops struggled to remain upright. The humans lowered their bodies, secured their equipment, and moved toward the shelter points they had already marked. An alien observer watching through a command drone suddenly understood something terrifying. The humans knew the planet. Not just the moon. The planet itself seemed to be part of their strategy. Every dangerous ridge, every electrical storm, every unstable section of ground had been accounted for. The observer sent an urgent message to the fleet commander. "Sir, the humans are not trapped." The commander looked at the screen. "What are they doing?" "They are guiding us." The command deck fell silent. Below them, the human warship began descending toward the largest crater on Vera. The alien fleet followed. Then the ground beneath the crater opened. A gigantic circular structure rose from the darkness. Its surface was covered with symbols older than any known galactic civilization. The human warship entered the center of the structure. The alien fleet surrounded it. And suddenly every human communication channel went silent. The captain looked at the machine awakening beneath them. For the first time since the battle began, uncertainty appeared in her eyes. "Something is wrong." The engineer checked the readings. "What?" The captain stared at the ancient symbols. "We were supposed to be the ones controlling it." The entire structure began to glow. "And now it is controlling us." The ancient structure beneath Vera continued to awaken. The glowing symbols spread across the crater floor, climbing the sides of the buried complex until the entire moon looked like it had been covered in veins of blue-white light. Every alien ship in orbit lost power for several seconds. Then the fleet's engines returned, but the weapons did not. The alien commander stared at his controls. "Why can we not fire?" "No weapons are responding." "Shields? Unstable? Communications?" The sensor officer looked at him with growing fear. "Only local channels remain." The commander slowly understood. They were no longer controlling the battlefield. The human warship was still inside the ancient structure, surrounded by thousands of alien vessels. Yet the humans had stopped moving. That frightened him more than an attack would have. On the human bridge, warning lights flashed across every console. The ancient machine had connected itself to the warship. Energy flowed through the hull, through the reactor, and into systems that had never been designed to communicate with anything outside the ship. The engineer fought to stabilize the connection. "We are losing control of navigation. Can you disconnect?" "I tried. And?" "It will not let go." The captain looked through the forward viewport. The buried structure had opened completely. Beyond it was a vast chamber stretching deeper than the moon's crust. Inside the chamber were thousands of enormous objects, each one covered in the same ancient markings. They were not weapons. They looked like ships. The captain's expression changed. "How many?" The engineer checked the scan. "I cannot count them." Outside, the alien fleet began moving again. The commander had made his decision. Destroy the human ship. His officers hesitated. "Sir, our weapons are offline." "Then use kinetic weapons." "Ram them if necessary." The order spread through the fleet. Hundreds of massive vessels began descending toward the crater. The humans watched them approach. One officer whispered, They still do not understand. The captain looked at him. No, they do not. She turned toward the main display. Open every communication channel. The officer activated the transmitter. For the first time, the human captain spoke to the entire fleet. You came here because you thought humans were weak. Her voice traveled across thousands of ships. You looked at Earth and saw a dangerous planet. Images appeared on alien displays. Storms crossing oceans, volcanic mountains, frozen wastelands, dense forests, predators moving through darkness, human settlements surviving earthquakes, floods, fires, and brutal winters. You saw a death world and assumed anything born there would be difficult to control. The alien commanders watched in silence. You were wrong. The images changed. Human cities appeared, then orbital stations, then colonies, then shipyards hidden beyond the Council's borders. The aliens began discovering the truth. Humanity had not been sitting helplessly on Earth. It had been adapting, building, learning, preparing, the captain continued. Every threat on our homeworld taught us something. Every disaster forced us to improve. Every enemy taught us to survive. A massive alien vessel accelerated toward the crater. The human captain did not move. You believed survival meant defeating everything that frightened you. Her voice remained calm. Humans learned something different. The approaching vessel suddenly stopped, not because of its own engines. Something had caught it. A field of energy spread from the ancient structure and wrapped around the alien ship without damaging it. The vessel remained suspended in space like a leaf caught in an invisible current. Then another ship stopped. Then another. Within seconds, the entire attack formation froze. Panic spread across the alien fleet. The commander demanded answers. We are being held. By what? The sensor officer stared at the readings. Not the humans. The commander looked toward the moon. The ancient structure was responding to the human warship. The alien commander finally understood the message. Humanity had not built the ancient machine, it had discovered it. And somehow, the machine had chosen humanity, but there was another problem. The human ship was beginning to shake. The connection was becoming unstable. The captain watched the reactor readings climb. How long? The engineer's face was pale. Not long. Can we shut it down? No. Can we escape? No. The captain looked at the frozen alien fleet. Then she looked at the enormous chamber beneath the moon. Thousands of ancient vessels were beginning to glow. One by one, their systems came alive. The alien commander watched in horror as objects larger than cities began rising from beneath Vera. His voice became almost a whisper. What did the humans wake? The human captain heard the same question through the open channel. She looked at the ancient ships. For the first time, she understood why humanity's founders had kept Vera secret. They had not been hiding the machine from the galaxy. They had been hiding the galaxy from the machine. The captain closed her eyes for a moment. Then she opened the final communication channel. Everyone, hold position. The engineer looked at her. Captain, what are you going to do? She stared at the approaching fleet. Show them what humanity learned on Earth. The ancient ships began to rise. The stars above Vera disappeared behind their enormous silhouettes. And across the galaxy, forgotten warning systems suddenly came alive. Something had recognized the humans. Something that had been waiting for them for thousands of years. And it was finally answering. The ancient ships rose higher. Their enormous hulls passed through Vera's thin atmosphere without making a sound. They were too large to be called warships in the ordinary sense. Each one looked like a moving piece of a forgotten civilization, covered in dark armor and glowing lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. The alien fleet remained frozen around them. For the first time, thousands of alien commanders had nothing to say. The human captain watched the ancient vessels carefully. Are they targeting us? The engineer checked the readings. No, then what are they targeting? He looked at the tactical display. The fleet. The captain immediately opened every communication channel. Do not fire. The alien commanders heard her. Some did not believe her. Others were too frightened to move. The Galactic Council fleet had spent centuries believing that strength came from numbers, advanced weapons, and political power. Now thousands of ships were helpless because a single human vessel had awakened something buried beneath a forgotten moon. The ancient ships moved, but they did not attack. Instead, they surrounded the human warship. A vast field of energy formed between them. The human crew waited for impact. It never came. The field stabilized the damaged systems of the human vessel. The reactor stopped climbing. The ancient connection became calm. The engineer stared at his instruments. It is helping us. The captain looked at the alien fleet. Then why did it stop them? The engineer studied the ancient markings. Maybe it was never designed to destroy. What was it designed for? He looked toward the thousands of vessels. Protection. That single word changed everything. The ancient civilization had not built a weapon to conquer the galaxy. It had built a network to protect developing worlds from civilizations that used overwhelming force against weaker species. The system had remained dormant for thousands of years. It had been waiting for a species capable of activating it without abusing its power. Humanity had passed the test. Not because humans were the strongest species, because they understood survival. The captain opened the communication channel again. Galactic fleet, stand down. The alien commander stared at her. You expect us to obey? No. The captain looked at the ancient vessels. I expect you to understand. The commander remained silent. The human captain continued. You came here because you believed our species was dangerous. You were right. Several alien officers shifted uneasily. But you misunderstood what made us dangerous. The screen behind her displayed images of Earth, forests recovering after fires, cities rebuilt after disasters, people helping one another through storms, children learning beneath the open sky. Humanity had survived because it adapted together. Humans are not dangerous because we enjoy war, she said. We are dangerous because we refuse to stop surviving. The alien commander looked down at the frozen fleet. Then he finally gave the order. Stand down. One by one, the alien weapons powered down. The ancient vessels remained in place, watching. The human warship slowly moved away from the crater. No missiles followed. No attack came. For the first time in generations, humans and the major galactic powers stood face to face without weapons firing between them. The truth about humanity spread across the galaxy within hours. The old records were rewritten. Earth was no longer classified simply as a death world. It became known as the world that had produced a species capable of surviving one. The Galactic Council sent representatives to Earth. They expected military leaders, they expected demands. Instead, they found something they had not anticipated. Humans were building hospitals, schools, research stations, new colonies, ships. The same species they had feared was spending more resources repairing damaged worlds than conquering them. The alien representatives finally understood. Humanity had never wanted the galaxy. Humanity had wanted a place in it. The hidden warship remained in orbit above Earth for years afterward. It became a symbol of the day the galaxy learned the truth. It was not called a destroyer. Humans gave it another name, the Survivor. Its crew continued exploring the stars, but the age of hiding was over. Humanity began sharing technology with species that had once feared it. The ancient defense network around Vera became protected territory, watched by humans and aliens together. There were still disagreements. There were still dangers. There were still worlds where humans were not welcome. But something fundamental had changed. The galaxy no longer looked at Earth and saw a primitive death world. They looked at Earth and saw a warning. If life could survive there, then perhaps humanity could survive anywhere. Years later, an alien child visiting Earth stood beside an observation window and watched a human storm roll across the horizon. Lightning crossed the dark clouds. Rain struck the glass. The child looked frightened. A human scientist standing nearby smiled. Is it dangerous? The child nodded. The scientist looked toward the storm. Yes. Then why do humans live here? The scientist thought for a moment. Because this is home? The child looked back at the storm. Then at the people walking calmly through the city below. Suddenly, the answer became clear. Humans had never conquered their death world. They had learned from it. Every harsh winter taught endurance. Every dangerous storm taught preparation. Every predator taught caution. Every failure taught adaptation. And every time the world tried to break them, humanity found another reason to stand. Far above Earth, the survivors' engines began to glow. A new mission was waiting beyond the stars. The captain looked at the endless darkness ahead. "Where are we going?" The navigator smiled. "Somewhere no human has survived yet." The captain nodded. "Then we have work to do." The warship disappeared into the stars. And across the galaxy, the message of humanity's first true victory remained simple. Humans were not feared because they were the strongest. They were feared because they came from a death world, learned how to survive it, and carried that resilience with them wherever they went. The galaxy had spent centuries asking how humanity could be defeated. It should have asked a different question. How do you defeat a species that has already learned how to survive the impossible?